Did you know that the IRS actually wants you to pay your children this year? No, I'm not making this up. By hiring your kids in your LLC this year, you can save over $15,000 in taxes. And the best part is, this strategy won't just help you save on taxes, it will help you create generational wealth for you and your family. So if living tax-free and building generational wealth is important to you, you do not want to miss today's episode. What's up, family? Welcome back to another episode of Tax-Free Living, where I teach entrepreneurs just like you how to live tax-free. I'm your host, Carter Cofield, and today's episode is going to be a complete game changer for any business owner with children. So the reason I decided to do this episode today, guys, is because we recently had a client come into our firm, and he was a business owner with 3 young boys. And when we sat down, I said, hey, do you let your kids work in your business? He said, of course. They help me around the office. They do a lot of things for me in the business. I said, okay, great. Do you pay your children from your business? He said, no. I said, why not? He said, because my children's payment is the roof over their heads. Like, I'm not paying them anything. And I was like, dude, that sounds like an answer my father would say. I said, but did you realize that the IRS will give you tax breaks for paying your kids? And he had no idea, because he was doing what most of you all are doing. He was making money in his business, then paying taxes, and then using the money that's already been taxed to pay for things for his children, like school supplies, tuition, things like that. But what he should be doing, and what you should be doing, is making money first, hiring and paying your children from your business second, and then using that money that hasn't been taxed yet to pay for the things that your kids already need. So this way you're paying your kids with money that hasn't been taxed. And when we implemented this into his business, it was a complete game changer for him, but also a complete game changer for his family. And if it can help him, I know with no doubt, this strategy will be able to help you. So before we get into the strategy, let's just break down the basics, okay? So let me break this down into simple terms. You know, when you hire someone in your business, whether that's a W-2 employee or a contractor or an agency, you get a tax deduction for the money that you pay them, right? Basic. Now, well, the IRS even gives better benefits when you hire your own children. So let me explain the rules and give you the exact step-by-step strategy on how you can do this in your business. So let's start with the rules. So the Department of Labor says if your children or your stepchildren, if you hire them into your business, you don't have to follow the Department of Labor laws when it comes to underage labor. So this means that you can hire your children as soon as they're born, technically, but the question becomes, how old does your child need to be to do actual work in your business? So let's talk about some examples. So Rihanna actually hired her 2-year-old daughter in her Fenty commercial at the age of 2 years old. And this is not the only time we see this. Ryan Reynolds, famous actor, hired both of his children to be actors in Deadpool 2 when one was 3 years old and the other one was 7 years old. Now, the important question I want you to ask yourself is, does your business need child models? Does your business need child actors? If not, then you cannot hire your kids at that young of an age. So what we recommend in our firm is that your children should be between the ages of 6 and 17 if you want them to work in your business, because this is the age that they will be able to do actual work in your business. And I'll give you all some tasks in a moment. But now that we understand the age, let's talk about the work that they can actually do. And this is not an extensive list. This is just the things that I came up with, right? So if you want to hire your children into your business, they need to do actual work. They can do things like social media management, filing and organizing your documents, basic data entry, inventory, counting, cleaning your office, photography, modeling, marketing, handling materials. These are some basic job descriptions that a child can do and that will actually make sense for the age they're working in your business, right? Especially social media management. Like if your kids are always on TikTok, they might as well run your business's TikTok account, right? It just makes sense. So that's some actual tasks that your children can do if you want to hire them into your business. Now, when you hire your children into your business, documentation is so important. So let's talk about the different documentation that you need to do if you want to hire your children into your business. So number one, you need to have a written job description for what they're going to do. If you have a job description for any other roles, this doesn't change. You need a job description for the role that your children are going to be performing in your business. The second is a timesheet. We want to track the time that our children are working in your business. And it doesn't have to be a manual timesheet. One of my favorite applications is an app called Toggle, and Toggl. And so as soon as your kids open the computer, they can just press play and it'll automatically track their time for them. And you also want to have a proof of payment, right? So you don't want to pay your children with cash, all right? You want to transfer money from your business account to the child's personal bank account, because we want a paper trail of the money that we're going to be paying them. All right. So we want to be able to quickly document and be able to track the money that we pay them. And that brings me to my next point. How do we actually pay them the money? Okay. Most people think that, oh, I'm going to pay my children via payroll software. And we do not want to do this, because if you pay your children via payroll software, the payroll software is going to withhold payroll taxes. And one of the main reasons we want to pay our kids in this way for this strategy is not only do we want to get the tax deduction for the money we pay them, but the money that they're going to receive is also going to be tax-free to them. So we don't want to use a payroll software to pay your children. You simply move the money from their business account, from your business account to their personal account. That's it. And we can do this on a weekly basis. We can do this on a monthly basis. We can do this on a quarterly basis. I recommend doing it on at least a monthly basis just to make everything simpler. Okay. So that's how you pay them. Now, let's talk about how much you can pay them, because this is key. So in 2025, you can pay your children up to $15,000 per year, and your children will receive this $15,000 tax-free. Now, why is that? That's because the standard deduction for 2025 is $15,000. So if you pay your children $15,000, the standard deduction that they get is going to wipe out that $15,000 from being taxable, right? So we can always pay them up to the standard deduction, and the standard deduction is going to increase year over year. So actually, in future years, you'll be able to pay them more, right? So you can pay them up to $15,000, and the standard deduction is going to wipe that out. Now, let me say this. Fair pay is a thing. Because think about it. If we have a 6-year-old, sweeping the office, can we really pay them, a $1,200 a month just for sweeping the office a couple hours a day? I don't know, right? So fair pay needs to be a thing. You can't pay your child $100 an hour for work that doesn't warrant $100 an hour, stuffing envelopes, things like that. So we want to make sure that we pay them below the standard deduction, but we also want to make sure that we pay them an accurate salary for the work that they're doing, right? This is key. Now, how do you categorize their payment on your profit and loss statement? This is huge, right? Because if we're not paying them via payroll, do we put it as wages? If we're not paying them as a 1099 contractor, do we put it as contractor expense? And so this is a very, very important part to this payout structure. You want to categorize their payment not as contractor expense, not as wages, but you want to categorize it as outside labor. Okay, this will allow you to be able to pay your children without having to issue them a W-2, because they don't need a W-2, and without having to issue them a 1099 because they don't need a 1099. So categorizing this on your profit and loss statement or your 1120S tax return, you want to categorize it as outside labor. Okay, now Why is this strategy so important? Why is this strategy so beneficial to business owners with children? Well, if you do this properly, you actually get a triple tax benefit. That's right. You avoid taxes 3 times. Okay, so how does this work in a real life example? Okay. So in a client example that I mentioned earlier, right? He had 3 young children. And so we're like, all right, all 3 of them work in the business, right? Yes. What are their ages? I believe one was 11, one was 15, and one was 17, I believe. And so it was like, cool, all of them work in the business, and they're all within age where they all can be paid $15,000 for the work that they do. So if he pays all 3 children $15,000, 15,000 times 3, that is a $45,000 tax deduction that his business is going to receive. But that's not all, because and that's tax savings number 1. His business, he gets a $45,000 tax deduction. Now, tax benefit number 2 is that $45,000 gets passed to his children 100% tax free. No federal tax, no state tax, no FICA tax, no FUTA tax, no SUTA tax, no nothing. So essentially, we moved $45,000 from his 37% tax bracket to his children's 0% tax bracket. So if we do 45,000 times 37%, we're going to get, that's a $16,650 in tax savings, right? And this is what we call a income shifting strategy. But how do we shift income from our highest tax bracket somewhere else with a lower tax bracket? So this saved him over $16,000 in taxes, which is benefit number 2. Now let's talk benefit number 3. Now that his children have earned income, guess what? We now can open up something called a custodial Roth IRA for his children, which will allow them, each child, to invest $7,000 of this $15,000 they're going to receive. They can invest $7,000 each into this custodial Roth IRA account, and that money in that account will grow tax-free forever. So wait a second. The business owner got a $45,000 tax deduction for paying his children. The children received the $45,000 tax-free, and they'll be able to invest $7,000 each, which is $21,000. They'll be able to invest $21,000 into an account that will grow tax-free forever. This is the power of tax strategy, and this is the power of leveraging the tax code to not only save on taxes, but leveraging the tax code to build generational wealth. So if this strategy was beneficial to you and you're going to use it in your business this year, comment the word tax-free in the chat, and please send this video to somebody else, another business owner with children, so they can save on taxes and build more wealth for their family. And guys, last but not least, if you enjoyed this episode, click that like button, smash that subscribe button, and tune in to another episode of Tax Free Living. See you next time.